Alan Garcia stood at the window of his office, watching the unusual spacecraft that had landed on the Cornell University campus 3 days ago. The ship still drew crowds of students who pointed and took photos, even though the initial excitement had somewhat died down. As the head of the entomology department, Alan had been selected to work directly with the alien visitors, a fact that still felt unreal to him. The Zephyrians had arrived on Earth 2 months ago, landing first at the United Nations headquarters before establishing diplomatic relations. They were tall, slender beings with silvery blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their 4-fingered hands moved with incredible precision, and their large, almond-shaped eyes could see spectrums of light invisible to humans. Alan turned away from the window as his office door opened. His graduate student, Samantha Kelly, Sam to everyone who knew her, burst in with her usual energy. "They're coming, Professor. The Zephyrian students will be here in 10 minutes. Sam's curly red hair bounced as she moved around the office, straightening already neat stacks of papers and adjusting the displays of preserved insects that lined the walls. Alan smiled at her enthusiasm. "Calm down, Sam. They're students, just like the ones we teach every day." "Students from another planet," Sam corrected, her green eyes wide with excitement. "Students whose civilization has mastered faster than light travel and has technology we can barely understand." "Yes, but this exchange program is about sharing knowledge. We have things to teach them, too." Sam raised an eyebrow. "About bugs?" "About Earth's most successful animal group," Alan said firmly. "Insects have survived for over 400 million years. Through multiple mass extinctions, they've adapted to nearly every environment on our planet. There's a lot the Zephyrians can learn from them." A gentle knock on the doorframe made them both turn. Dr. Elaine Porter, the university president, stood there with 5 Zephyrian visitors. The aliens towered over her, most of them nearly 7 feet tall. "Professor Garcia, Ms. Kelly, I'd like to introduce our exchange students from Zephyr," Dr. Porter said, her voice betraying her own nervousness. "This is their academic advisor, Kirval, and students Learnoth, Mezeril, Tavsona, and Perdax." The lead Zephyrian stepped forward. Kirval wore what appeared to be a formal uniform in deep purple with silver trim. "We are honored to participate in this historic exchange," he said. His English was perfect, though it had an unusual musical quality. Alan stepped forward and extended his hand. "Welcome to Cornell's Department of Entomology. We're excited to share our research with you." Kirval looked at Alan's hand for a moment before remembering the human custom and gently shaking it. His skin felt smooth and cool. "I understand you study the small crawling creatures," Kirval said. "An interesting choice of specialization." One of the students behind him, Learnoth, according to the name displayed on his translator device, made a sound that their translation technology didn't convert. It sounded suspiciously like a snicker. "We study insects," Sam corrected, stepping forward. "They make up over 80% of all animal species on Earth." "How quaint," Learnoth said, his large eyes scanning the displays of preserved specimens on the wall. "On Zephyr, we focus our biological studies on organisms that have actual significance to ecosystem management and technological advancement." Dr. Porter looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps we should move to the lecture hall. The welcome presentation is scheduled to begin soon." As they walked across campus, students stopped to stare at the alien visitors. The Zephyrians walked with perfect posture, their movements fluid and graceful. Sam noticed they seemed particularly interested in the trees and plants they passed, but they barely glanced at a butterfly that fluttered past. In the lecture hall, Alan had prepared a presentation on the basics of Earth's insect life. As students and faculty filed in, filling the hall to capacity, he felt a growing nervousness. He'd given thousands of lectures in his career, but never to an audience that included beings from another planet. He began with an overview of insect diversity. Earth is home to over 1 million known insect species, with scientists estimating there may be up to 10 million species in total. They've colonized nearly every habitat on our planet, from deserts to Arctic tundra, from rainforests to urban environments. As Alan clicked to a slide showing a close-up of a praying mantis, he heard distinct sounds of amusement from the Zephyrian students. Learnoth leaned over to whisper something to Mesriel, who covered her mouth to suppress what appeared to be laughter. Alan continued professionally, moving to examples of insect adaptations. The bombardier beetle can create a chemical explosion inside its body without harming itself, spraying predators with a boiling hot toxic chemical spray. Primitive defense mechanism, Learnoth said, not bothering to whisper this time. Our Zephyrian bloodflies can inject targeted pathogens that affect only specific predator species. Alan felt his face grow warm, but pressed on. Leafcutter ants practice advanced agriculture, growing fungus gardens underground. They use antibiotics to keep their crops disease-free and manage temperature and humidity for optimal growth. Kirval tilted his head. Interesting, but hardly comparable to our atmospheric engineers. By the end of the lecture, the atmosphere in the room had grown tense. The Zephyrian students made little effort to hide their dismissive attitude. As the audience filed out, Sam remained in her seat, her hands clenched into fists. "They're acting like we're some primitive backwater," she said to Alan when they were alone. "Did you see how they laughed at the monarch butterfly migration? As if traveling 3,000 miles using the Earth's magnetic field for navigation is something to sneer at," Alan sighed. "They come from a civilization thousands of years ahead of ours technologically. Some cultural arrogance was to be expected. But they're completely missing the point." Sam stood up, pacing in front of the lecture podium. "It's not about who has the biggest spaceship. It's about elegant solutions to survival problems. Insects do incredible things with brains smaller than a grain of rice." She stopped suddenly, a familiar gleam in her eye that Alan recognized from whenever she had a potentially troublesome idea. "What are you thinking, Sam?" he asked cautiously. "I'm thinking these stuck-up space visitors need a reality check." She grinned, "And I know exactly how to give them one." "Sam, we need to maintain diplomatic—" "Trust me, Professor, I'm not going to create an international or interplanetary incident." Sam gathered her notebooks. "I'm just going to propose an addition to their exchange curriculum, one that gets them out of the classroom and into the field." Alan watched her stride purposefully toward the door. "What kind of addition?" Sam turned, her smile both mischievous and determined. "A challenge. 6 weeks studying Earth's insects up close and personal. If they still think our six-legged friends are primitive after that, well, then I'll eat my field hat." As she left, Alan couldn't help but smile. If anyone could change the Zephyrians' minds about Earth's insects, it would be Samantha Kelly. He just hoped the university administration, and Earth's new alien visitors, were ready for her particular brand of educational enthusiasm. Sam stood before the Academic Exchange Committee, her proposal displayed on the screen behind her. 5 humans and 2 Zephyrians sat at the long table, watching her with expressions ranging from interest to skepticism. "So in conclusion," Sam said, pointing to her final slide, "I propose a 6-week field study program where Zephyrian students will be paired with human counterparts to observe insect behaviors in various ecosystems. This hands-on experience will provide much deeper understanding than classroom lectures alone." Dr. Porter, sitting at the center of the table, looked thoughtful. "It's an ambitious proposal, Ms. Kelly. What do our Zephyrian colleagues think?" Kirval tilted his head in that peculiar way the aliens had. "The proposal has merit for cultural exchange purposes. However, I question the scientific value of spending so much time studying such basic life forms." Sam bit her lip to keep from responding too sharply. "With all due respect, how can you judge their value without proper study? Our insects have developed solutions to problems that might benefit your people in ways you haven't considered." The second Zephyrian, a cultural attaché named Jevlor, raised a slender hand. "I support this proposal. The purpose of our exchange is to learn about Earth in all its aspects, not just those we immediately recognize as valuable." After a brief discussion, the committee approved Sam's plan. As people filed out of the room, Learnoth approached Sam, his tall frame casting a shadow over her. "I have been assigned as your partner for this field study," he said. His tone made it sound like he'd been sentenced to prison. I want to make it clear that I am participating only because it is required for my academic credit. Sam smiled, sweetly. Noted, pack for variable weather conditions and bring waterproof boots. We leave tomorrow at dawn. The next morning, a small convoy of university vehicles departed from campus. Alan drove the lead van with Sam and Learnoth. Behind them came Noah Wright, a quiet but brilliant ecology student, with his Zephyrian partner, Mesriel. The third vehicle carried Olivia Martinez, an undergraduate with a special talent for spotting well-camouflaged insects, and her partner, Tavsona. Their first destination was just 2 hours away, a nature preserve with diverse habitats, ranging from meadows to woodlands and small streams. As they unloaded their equipment, Sam noticed another vehicle pull into the parking area. A lone Zephyrian emerged, one she recognized from the diplomatic team but hadn't seen at the university. "Who is that?" she asked Learnoth. The alien student glanced over. "Vexmore. He is an observer from our science ministry. He will be documenting our exchange for official records." Sam frowned slightly. Something about the explanation didn't feel complete, but she had no reason to question it further. She handed Learnoth a collection kit. "Today we're starting with something special," she said, leading the group down a trail into the woods, the bombardier beetle. They walked for 20 minutes before Sam stopped and knelt by a rotting log. With careful movements, she rolled it over to reveal dozens of small beetles scurrying for cover. "Noah, can you get the clear container ready?" she asked. Noah prepared a small terrarium while Sam gently collected one beetle. She placed it inside, then added a small mechanical device that resembled a tiny toy car. "What is that?" Learnoth asked. "Watch," Sam said. She used a remote control to make the tiny car move toward the beetle. When it got close, the beetle turned and sprayed a visible mist. The tiny car stopped moving. The bombardier beetle mixes chemicals in its abdomen that react violently, creating a spray that reaches 100 degrees Celsius, Sam explained. "It can aim this spray with remarkable accuracy." Learnoth's large eyes blinked slowly. "And it does not harm itself with this reaction?" "No. Its body has special chambers and valves that control the reaction perfectly." Tavsona leaned closer to the container. "Our scientists have been trying to develop miniature spray mechanisms for medical applications that wouldn't require power sources. The solution has been difficult. Yet this tiny creature solved it millions of years ago," Sam said. Vexmore had moved closer during the demonstration. He held up a small device that emitted a soft blue light. "May I scan the specimen for our records?" Alan nodded. "Of course." Throughout the day, they observed more insects, from ants carrying leaves many times their body weight to spiders spinning webs of incredible strength. The Zephyrians recorded everything, their initial dismissive attitudes giving way to reluctant interest. As the sun began to set, they set up camp in a clearing. The humans prepared a cook fire while the Zephyrians assembled strange-looking tents that seemed to hover slightly above the ground. "Tomorrow we'll visit the desert zone of the preserve," Sam told the group as they ate dinner. "The insects there have incredible adaptations for surviving extreme conditions." Learnoth sat next to her, studying something on his datapad. "These beetles," he said finally. "They survive in conditions that would destroy our most advanced micromachinery. How is this possible with such a small neural system?" Sam smiled. "That's exactly the kind of question we're here to explore." Later that night, when most of the group was asleep, Noah stepped out of his tent to get some water. He noticed Vexmore standing at the edge of camp, the strange blue scanning device in his hand. The Zephyrian was passing it over several small containers, each holding insects they had collected for temporary observation. As Vexmore worked, he spoke softly into a communication device. Noah couldn't hear the words clearly, but he caught phrases like remarkable defense chemistry and potential applications. Something about the scene made Noah uneasy. They had been told all specimens would be released unharmed after observation, yet Vexmore seemed to be taking samples or readings beyond what had been approved. Noah slipped back into his tent without being noticed. He would tell Sam about it in the morning, he decided. The next day dawned bright and hot. As they loaded the vehicles to drive to the desert section of the preserve, Sam noticed Learnoth studying a butterfly that had landed on their equipment. Its wing pattern is mathematical, the alien student said, not looking up. There's a symmetry and ratio that appears intentional. It is, Sam replied, though not designed by intelligence as you're thinking. It's the product of millions of years of evolution. Learnoth finally turned to her. On our world, such patterns would be created by our designers. Nature on Zephyr is less ordered. It was the first hint Sam had gotten about the Zephyrian homeworld's ecosystems. Before she could ask more questions, Noah approached, his expression concerned. Sam, can I talk to you for a minute? In private? She nodded and they walked a short distance away. I saw Vexmore last night, Noah said quietly. He was scanning our insect samples and talking to someone about applications. Something doesn't feel right about him. Sam glanced toward where Vexmore stood talking with Kirval. I had the same feeling. Let's keep an eye on him today. As they drove to the next location, Sam wondered what the Zephyrian might really be after. Were insects truly just a scientific curiosity to them? Or was there something more valuable about Earth's tiny creatures than the aliens were admitting? The desert sun beat down on the group as they walked along a dry, rocky path. Despite the early hour, heat waves already shimmered above the ground. The Zephyrians seemed unbothered by the temperature, their silvery blue skin apparently well adapted to heat. This is the harshest environment in our study area, Sam explained as she led the way. Yet it's home to hundreds of insect species that have evolved amazing ways to survive. She stopped at a small, scraggly bush and gently turned over one of its leaves. A tiny, sand-colored insect sat perfectly still. This is a desert darkling beetle, she said, gesturing for the group to look closer. It has evolved a special shell, structure that collects water from morning fog. The moisture runs down channels on its back and into its mouth. Learnoth bent down to examine the beetle. After 3 weeks of field studies, his initial disdain had given way to genuine curiosity. How long can it survive without water? Some desert beetles can go their entire lives without drinking water directly, Sam said. They get all the moisture they need from fog and the food they eat. Tavsona made notes on her data pad. Our desert colonies struggle with water reclamation. Even our most advanced systems cannot match this efficiency. Olivia, who had developed a friendly rapport with Tavsona, pointed to the ground nearby. Look there. See those tiny mounds? Those are harvester ant nests. They build special chambers deep underground where temperatures remain stable despite the extreme heat up here. As the group moved through the desert, Sam noticed that Vexmore kept a slight distance from the others, but was intensely focused on every demonstration. He collected samples of sand and plant material near insect habitats and took readings with his scanning device. Whatever his true purpose was, his interest seemed genuine. By midday, they had documented a dozen insect species with remarkable heat and drought adaptations. They took shelter under a rock overhang to eat lunch and escape the worst of the sun. I have a question, Learnoth said as they rested. On our world, we have achieved remarkable technological progress, yet you claim these tiny creatures have engineered solutions that rival or exceed our own. How is this possible? Alan, who had been quiet for most of the morning, answered. Evolution is an incredible problem solver given enough time. Earth's insects have had over 400 million years to perfect their adaptations through countless generations. They're not consciously engineering solutions. They're the product of what works best for survival. On Zephyr, Mesril added, speaking more openly than she had before, our evolutionary path was different. We have no equivalent to your insects, no small creatures with such specialization and diversity. Our planet's history produced fewer larger species. This revelation surprised the humans. Sam exchanged glances with Alan, both thinking the same thing. A world without insects would have fundamentally different ecosystems. That explains your initial reaction to our studies, Sam said. You literally have nothing to compare them to. Kirval nodded. On our world, we long ago took control of ecosystem management. Our ancestors engineered our remaining species for specific purposes. The concept of allowing nature to develop its own solutions is foreign to us. Yet these natural solutions have aspects our technology has yet to achieve, Learnoth said, looking at his data pad where he had compiled their observations. The efficiency of resource use, the self-replication, the adaptability without external control. After lunch, they visited a section of the desert where a recent rainfall had triggered a rare event, a butterfly emergence. Thousands of painted lady butterflies filled the air, their wings creating flashes of orange and black against the blue sky. They were waiting as poopy in the ground, Sam explained as the group stood in awe. Some have been dormant for years, waiting for exactly the right conditions. Tavsona watched the butterflies with an expression that seemed like wonder. They can pause their development for years and then resume perfectly when conditions are right? Sam nodded. Some insects can even survive being completely frozen and then thaw out when temperatures rise. That evening at camp, the mood had noticeably shifted. The Zephyrian students gathered around the campfire with their human counterparts, exchanging information and asking questions that showed genuine respect for Earth's ecology. Noah, still wary of Vexmore, kept an eye on the observer. After dinner, he noticed Vexmore walk away from camp and followed at a distance. The Zephyrian stopped in a clearing and activated a communication device that projected a holographic image of another Zephyrian wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. Noah couldn't hear the conversation, but he could see Vexmore displaying data files and insect images to the uniformed figure. The exchange looked serious and formal, not like a casual scientific report. When Vexmore returned to camp, Noah circled around to approach from a different direction so it wouldn't be obvious he had been following. He found Sam and Alan and quietly told them what he had seen. "I think he's military, not scientific," Noah whispered. "And I think he's gathering information for purposes beyond cultural exchange." Alan frowned. "We shouldn't jump to conclusions. There could be innocent explanations. But we should be careful," Sam agreed. "Let's see if we can learn more." The next morning, they broke camp and traveled to their most ambitious destination yet, a section of rainforest preserve 3 hours away. As they drove, Learnoth sat beside Sam, reviewing data from their previous observations. "I have been sending reports back to our academic institutions," he said after a while. "There is growing interest in your insects among our research community." "Really?" Sam smiled. "That's a big change from 3 weeks ago." Learnoth's expression was serious. "Yes, but I should warn you, not all interest may be purely academic. Our world faces challenges that your insects seem to have solved naturally. Some on Zephyr might see this as exploitable." "What kind of challenges?" Sam asked. "Resource scarcity, climate adaptation, miniaturization of technology." He hesitated. "And military applications. Your bombardier beetles, for instance, have defensive capabilities our weapon designers would find fascinating." Sam felt a chill despite the warm day. "Our agreement was for peaceful scientific exchange, and that is my interest and that of my fellow students," Learnoth assured her, "but others may have different priorities." Sam glanced in the rearview mirror at the vehicle behind them, where Vexmore rode with Kirval. Noah's suspicions, suddenly, seemed more credible. The convoy reached the rainforest site by midday. The air was thick with humidity and filled with the sounds of insects, a constant chorus of clicks, buzzes, and chirps. "Here we'll see the most diverse insect populations on Earth," Alan announced as they unloaded their equipment. "More than half of all known species live in rainforests like this one." Olivia pointed upward. "Look, army ants." A column of large ants marched along a tree branch overhead, moving with perfect coordination. "They operate as a superorganism," she explained to Tavsona. "Millions of individuals functioning as a single entity with shared purpose." As the Zephyrians watched the ants with newfound appreciation, Sam noticed Vexmore taking particular interest in this demonstration. He was recording everything and taking samples, his face unreadable but his attention unwavering. Sam moved closer to Learnoth and whispered, "Your friend Vexmore." Is he really just an observer? Learnoth watched Vexmore for a long moment before answering quietly. No, and I think it is time you knew why he is really here. Learnoth led Sam away from the group, deep enough into the rainforest that they wouldn't be overheard. The sounds of insects surrounded them, clicks, buzzes, and chirps creating nature's own symphony. Vexmore works for a military research division, Learnoth said in a low voice. He was added to our exchange mission at the last minute by our government's defense council. Sam's eyes widened. So Noah was right. He is collecting information for military purposes. Yes, but you need to understand our situation. Learnoth looked genuinely troubled. Zephyr is facing environmental challenges. Our ancestors' decision to control evolution has led to problems. What kind of problems? Our ecosystems lack resilience. Without small creatures like your insects constantly adapting and evolving, our planet's environments have become increasingly fragile. Now, with climate shifts similar to what Earth experienced centuries ago, we're struggling to maintain balance. Sam frowned. But what does that have to do with military research? Resources are becoming scarce. Some factions believe conflict is inevitable, either among our own colonies or potentially with other worlds. Learnoth's voice dropped even lower. They see Earth's insects as inspiration for new technologies, weapons, surveillance systems, even biological agents that could survive extreme conditions. Sam felt a chill run down her spine. They want to weaponize what we're studying? Not all of us, Learnoth assured her. Many, like myself and the other students, see these creatures as models for sustainable solutions. But Vexmore's division sees military applications. We need to tell Alan and the others, Sam said, turning back toward camp. Learnoth caught her arm. Wait. If Vexmore knows I've told you, it could create a diplomatic incident. Let me speak with Caraval first. He has more influence with our government. Sam reluctantly agreed, and they returned to the group. The rest of the day was spent studying rainforest insects, leafcutter ants with their remarkable agricultural systems, glowing beetles that used bioluminescence to attract mates, and stick insects with perfect camouflage. Despite the fascinating discoveries, Sam couldn't focus. She kept watching Vexmore, noting how he paid special attention to insects with defensive capabilities or unique survival traits. That night, as most of the camp slept, Sam noticed Learnoth slipping away to speak with Kirval. Their conversation seemed intense but quiet. When Learnoth returned, his expression was grim. Kirval was aware of Vexmore's mission, he whispered to Sam. He says it's authorized at the highest levels of our government. So he won't help us? He says there's nothing wrong with gathering information. No one is stealing anything or breaking any agreements. Noah had been listening nearby and joined their hushed conversation. Not yet, maybe. But I saw Vexmore collecting insect specimens that weren't part of our approved study. I think he's building his own collection to take back to Zephyr. Olivia appeared from the shadows. I've noticed the same thing. He's particularly interested in the insects with extreme survival capabilities. The four of them sat in troubled silence until Alan approached, yawning. What's going on? Why is everyone still up? Sam quickly explained what they had learned about Vexmore. Alan's face grew serious as he listened. If this is true, we need to report it to Dr. Porter and the exchange committee, he said. This goes beyond our academic agreement. We have no proof, Sam pointed out, and we need to be careful about making accusations that could damage relations with the Zephyrians. Then we need to get proof, Noah said. Tomorrow we're visiting the Butterfly Research Center. Vexmore won't be able to resist collecting specimens. There. The next day, the group arrived at the university's Butterfly Research Center, a large greenhouse filled with thousands of butterflies from around the world. The space was humid and filled with colorful wings fluttering in every direction. The group toured the facility. Sam noticed that each of her fellow humans had positioned themselves to keep an eye on Vexmore. The Zephyrian moved through the butterfly house with apparent casualness, but his eyes missed nothing. Dr. Laura Chen, the center's director, led them to a special section in the back. "These are some of our most remarkable specimens," she explained. "Butterflies that have evolved extreme adaptations." She pointed out butterflies with specialized antifreeze proteins that allowed them to survive being frozen solid, others with toxins potent enough to kill small birds, and some with complex mimicry patterns that made predators avoid them. As Dr. Chen moved to the next exhibit, Sam saw Vexmore slip a small device from his pocket. It emitted a faint blue light as he passed it over a cluster of monarch butterflies. Noah had positioned himself to record the action with his phone camera. He nodded to Sam, indicating he had captured evidence. Later, as they prepared to leave, Olivia noticed something disturbing. Several of the butterflies from the section Vexmore had scanned were missing. She quietly alerted Dr. Chen, who confirmed that someone had taken specimens. Back at their vehicles, Alan confronted Vexmore. "We know what you're doing. You're collecting specimens without permission and scanning them for military research." Vexmore's expression hardened. "I am gathering information as authorized by the exchange agreement." "Taking specimens without permission violates that agreement," Alan countered, "and using them for military purposes goes against the spirit of peaceful exchange." Vexmore looked at Kirval. "This is becoming a diplomatic issue. Perhaps we should return to the university and consult with our respective authorities." Kirval nodded. "That would be wise." As they drove back toward Cornell, the atmosphere was tense. The Zephyrian students looked uncomfortable, caught between loyalty to their world and the relationships they had built with their human counterparts. "What happens now?" Lernoth asked Sam quietly. "I don't know," she admitted. "But we can't just let your people take our insects to develop weapons." "It's worse than that," Noah said from the back seat. "I've been reviewing some of the data. The specimens Vexmore was most interested in were those that could survive extreme conditions: radiation, vacuum, toxic environments." "So?" Olivia asked. Noah's face was grim. "Those are the kinds of conditions you'd find in space warfare or planetary invasion." The implication hung heavily in the air. Were the Zephyrians simply studying Earth's insects for scientific purposes, or were they analyzing Earth's biological defenses for something more sinister? When they arrived back at Cornell, Dr. Porter was waiting with two government officials. Their expressions suggested they already knew something was wrong. "We've received concerning information from the diplomatic team," Dr. Porter said. "We need to discuss the future of the exchange program immediately." As they walked toward the administration building, Sam noticed Vexmore slip away from the group, heading toward the Zephyrian ship that still sat on the university grounds. He was moving with purpose, a small container clutched tightly in his hand. "He's leaving with the specimens," she whispered to Lernoth. "We have to stop him." Sam and Lernoth rushed after Vexmore with Noah and Olivia close behind. They cut across the quad, taking a shortcut toward the landing area where the Zephyrian ship waited. "We need to stop him before he gets those specimens off planet," Sam said, breathing hard as they ran. Vexmore had a good head start, but his tall frame made him easy to spot across the open campus grounds. He was moving quickly toward the ship, which now had a soft blue glow around its base, a sign it was preparing for departure. "This is bad," Lernoth said. "If he activates the ship's security protocols, we won't be able to approach." They rounded the science building to see Vexmore at the ship's entrance ramp. He was punching a code into a panel beside the door. Behind them, Alan was running to catch up, with Dr. Porter and several officials following at a distance. "Vexmore!" Lernoth called out. "Stop! This violates our exchange agreement." The military observer turned, his face showing surprise at seeing the students pursuing him. "This is not your concern," he said coldly. "These specimens are being secured for Zephyrian research interests." "You mean weapons research?" Sam shot back. "You're stealing Earth organisms to develop military technology." By now, a small crowd had gathered at a safe distance, drawn by the commotion. Among them were the other Zephyrian students looking conflicted and uncertain. Vexmore's hand moved to a device on his belt. "This is an authorized mission. Do not interfere." Alan caught up to the students, slightly out of breath. As the Earth representative for this exchange program, I formally request that you surrender any biological specimens collected without permission. I don't recognize your authority in this matter, Vexmore replied. He turned back to the ship's entry panel. In that moment, Tavasona stepped forward from the crowd. Stop, Vexmore, the student council agrees with the humans. The other Zephyrian students moved to stand with her. What you're doing dishonors the spirit of our exchange. Mesriel added, We came to learn from Earth, not to steal from it. Vexmore looked at his fellow Zephyrians with something like disgust. You've been on this planet too long. You've forgotten what's at stake for our world. We haven't forgotten, Learnoth said firmly. But we've learned there are better solutions than weapons. Kirval finally stepped forward, his formal robes making him look more imposing than usual. Vexmore, as the official academic leader of this exchange, I order you to stand down and surrender the specimens. For a tense moment it seemed Vexmore might refuse. Then his shoulders slumped slightly. You're making a mistake. Our military council will not be pleased. Perhaps, Kirval acknowledged. But I believe our science council will support this decision when they see our full report. Reluctantly, Vexmore handed over the container of specimens to Dr. Porter, who had finally caught up. 2 security officers moved to escort him away from the ship. The specimens will be returned to their habitats, Dr. Porter assured everyone, and we'll need to discuss the future of our exchange program. As the crowd dispersed, the students, both human and Zephyrian, gathered near the university lake. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the water, where insects skimmed across the surface. I'm sorry about what happened, Learnoth said to Sam. Vexmore represents only one faction on our world. Many of us truly came to learn. And learn we did, Mesriel added. These past weeks have changed how we see biological systems. Entirely. Sam skipped a stone across the lake. So what happens now? Will your government recall all of you? Kirval, who had joined them, shook his head. I've spoken with our council. The exchange will continue, but with stricter protocols. Vexmore's methods were not approved, though his mission of information gathering was. Does that mean you're still interested in our insects for military purposes? Olivia asked bluntly. Some will always see that potential, Kirval admitted. But I believe most of our scientists now see a different value, one that Learnoth and the others have helped identify. Learnoth nodded enthusiastically. What if, instead of trying to create weapons based on insect defenses, we created environmental restoration systems based on insect adaptations? Exactly, Tavsona agreed. Our world needs help rebuilding resilient ecosystems. Earth's insects provide perfect models for engineered organisms that could help restore balance. Alan, who had been listening quietly, smiled. That sounds like a research project worth pursuing. 2 weeks later, the group gathered in the university's main hall. The room was filled with students, faculty, and diplomatic representatives from both Earth and Zephyr. On a large screen, diagrams showed possible applications of insect-inspired technologies, not for weapons, but for environmental restoration, medicine, and sustainable engineering. Dr. Porter stood at the podium. Today, I'm pleased to announce the establishment of the Earth-Zephyr Joint Biomimicry Institute. This collaborative research center will focus on studying Earth's biological systems, particularly insects, to develop solutions for environmental challenges on both worlds. Sam sat in the front row beside Learnoth, who now wore the formal robes of a project coordinator rather than a student. Behind them, Noah and Olivia sat with their Zephyrian partners, all looking pleased. Our first project, Dr. Porter continued, will focus on developing insect-inspired microdrones to help pollinate crops on Zephyr, where pollinating insects don't exist. Later projects will explore water conservation systems based on desert, beetle shell structures, and building designs inspired by termite mounds for natural temperature regulation. After the ceremony, as people mingled and discussed the new institute, Sam found Learnoth staring out a window at a butterfly garden that had been planted on campus. Quite a change from when you first arrived and laughed at our insect studies, she teased. Learnoth smiled, a gesture he had learned from humans. I've been thinking about something your Professor Garcia said in that first lecture. He called insects elegant solutions to survival problems. I didn't understand then. I do now. And what do you understand? Sam asked. That sometimes the smallest creatures have the biggest lessons to teach. On Zephyr, we believed bigger was better. Bigger technology, bigger solutions. We tried to control nature instead of learning from it. He gestured to the butterfly garden. These tiny beings have solved problems we haven't in thousands of years of trying. Sam watched a monarch butterfly land on a flower. So what will you tell your people when you return home? Learnoth's expression grew serious. That the future of our world may depend on what we learn from yours. Not to create more powerful weapons, but to remember what we've forgotten. How to work with nature, not against it. Outside, more Zephyrian ships had landed, bringing scientists and researchers, eager to join the new institute. Earth's insects, once dismissed as primitive and insignificant by the advanced aliens, were now recognized as unique treasures holding answers to problems across the stars. As Sam and Learnoth walked through the butterfly garden, a monarch landed, briefly on the Zephyrian's shoulder before fluttering away. He watched it go with wonder rather than disdain, his perspective forever changed by the small creatures that had evolved solutions to problems his advanced civilization had never solved.